Hello, welcome back to a Spiritual Ascension, my 5-year own personal story. When I left off, I had just arrived at the homeless shelter after leaving an extremely abusive situation with a family member that I had been living with for about 2.5 years during that international um, epidemic period from April 2020 to I left there the end of September of 2022. And something that I just remembered, there's a lot of things I'll probably have to go back. I think of them after I did the video. Um, and just as a notice to you too, I think I've said it in many videos. When a situation that you're in, it's kind of, it's kind of bad as it is. And like, say, for instance, a work situation, right? And it's not a good situation. And the situation starts to get worse and worse and worse to the point that, like, if you stay there any longer, like, you don't know what you're going to do. That's kind of your sign from the divine to say it's time to exit this situation, always believing that the divine is going to put a net out to catch you. Okay. If it's a bad relationship going along and you kind of like, well, maybe it's not that bad, and kind of keep going along, and then it gets worse and worse and worse. That spirit kind of pushing that button saying it's time to leave. So I had already been um, living with this family member. As I tell you, please go back to the beginning, to the intro video, to kind of go through the entire thing to understand all aspects of um, this story. And not only was she being emotionally abusive to me, um, the house was in such a disarray that she believed that since I was there, that I should just kind of be the maid and clean up after her. And because of my own bad self-worth, I thought, okay, I don't have any money to, at this point, to help pay any of the bills or anything like that. So, okay, I should, do all the cleaning and everything. But the thing was, she was kind of purposely making a big mess. And I was just at the point where I refused at this point to clean up after her. Um, I think I said that, I always kept my area clean, and anything that the kids, um, did while I was watching them. The kitchen, I kind of always did the dishes and tried to, but it was just a really bad situation. Also, towards the end, she had just got a new boyfriend, and I had already said, anytime you need to go out or whatever, run out, I'm here to watch the kids. And that was our original arrangements for me to come when I was still in New York to watch the kids for her because she was working from home. And now the kids had been back in daycare for a while. But it came to the point now of around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. It was time for the kids to kind of settle down and go to bed. But what she would do is put them in a room and give them, iPad or put on the TV. And then she would leave. And it got to the point where she wasn't even saying anything to me. She would just leave. And she had just got a new boyfriend, and um, the first couple times she's like, "Oh, can you watch them for me?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, no problem." She says, "Oh, I'll be back later." And then she wouldn't end up coming back till early in the morning. Um, One time I was getting really frustrated, but there's not too much I could say because, of course, you know, I was in her house as she let me know. Um, One point, the one young child had got up early in the morning, like 4 o'clock, and she had never given me her new number. I also didn't have a phone at that time because I just didn't have the money to have a phone. And I had the house phone was there, um, but she hadn't given me her new number, and she would just leave. The young one got up, and she was so hot one morning, and she came and she laid on me, and she was burning up. And I knew that Stacy, as I've been calling her, needed to be back at a certain time to get the kids ready to go to school. And I didn't want to give the little one any medicine, like everything would be a fight. Like if I gave the medicine, it would be a fight. If I didn't, which I didn't end up giving medicine, that would ended up in a whole big argument. So she ended up taking her, and actually the older daughter wasn't feeling well either, and took them to the doctor, and they ended up having COVID. So she had gotten upset with me for not giving her any fever reducer. But I had said to myself, like, I've had children. If I was to give her medicine, um, and then the mother came home and I said, well, she has a fever. And then she's like, well, the fever is reduced, she can just go to school. She would have never known that it was that serious, and then when, the kid would have went to school and passed it on to other kids. So it was just one thing after another after another. Anyway, going back to my first night at the shelter, I um, had made arrangements with my friend to come back and get me the next day and to take me to the house, back to the house to get all my belongings. And so he came really early. I don't know, it was like 7:30 in the morning. I wanted to get in there and out early before everybody kind of got up in the house. And I was thankful because they were still in the bed. So I went in and cleaned out the space that I had, got everything, and it probably took me about a half an hour with it. And she knew I was there, but she didn't never got up, never said goodbye, never said, "Oh, you're leaving," or anything like that. Um, oh, the funny thing was too, we had, as I told you in the last video, we had gone to social services. Um, and she was thinking that she was going to put me on her plan or whatever they call it. And that was a Friday. And I never went back to the house. She thought I was coming back, and she had planned to go out with her boyfriend that night and was just going to leave the kids with me. And so now everybody's calling me that Friday, because, oh no, I did get a phone by the, that's a whole nother story I have to tell you about. That I did end up getting a phone. That was divine intervention, big time. Oh my goodness. That I was able to get a phone. Wow, I forgot about that. Um, Well, they weren't calling me. I now had my phone that didn't work, and then I had my new phone that she knew nothing about my new phone, and I didn't want her having my new number or anything. But my old phone, as long as I was within like Wi-Fi or whatever, I can get like text messages and stuff like or on Facebook, like messages. Anyway, she wasn't calling me, but then she had her daughter calling me and texting me. Well, not calling, but texting me. And then her father was texting me saying, "Are you coming to watch the kids?" And I didn't respond to any of them because she had planned on going out and was just going to leave the kids. Anyway, early the next morning, I had went there, got my stuff. She never said anything to me, never got up. And I went outside and I said to him, put all my stuff in his car. And I said to him, I said, she never even got up. She never even said anything. And he's like, do you really want her to at this point? Because he knew, when we had gone down south, I had told him everything that was going on. And he was really worried, that I was in a really bad situation. Um, so we actually stopped like in a parking lot. I didn't want to take you were only supposed to really bring 2 bags to the shelter. And I had, all the stuff that I had accumulated from working at Bloomingdale's for that time and the stuff I had brought from New York with me. So it wasn't a lot, but lot in a way that, it was all clothes mostly, um, like shoes and stuff like that. I also had some really um, good, expensive clothing that I had brought with me from New York. And I did not want to bring that with me because you can't lock up anything when you're in a shelter. There's 4 women in a room. There's 2 bunk beds, and you have a space. You leave the room, anybody can take anything. I was fortunate enough to be in a room where I didn't get anything stolen from me. But I asked him, I said, can you take these things? I don't need these things at this time. Can you take these things and just hold on to them for me? Um, so he did. And I took just like 2 bags with me. Um, I was fortunate enough the closet in the room was empty. So I was able to have that whole closet, was, I mean, not a big closet, but the other 2 women that were in the room kept their stuff under their beds in like suitcases. So since I was on the upper bunk, um, I didn't have that access. So I was able to keep my stuff in the closet that was there. When I later on, it's funny when like I tell you, I worked and lived and everything in New York, and I had several pieces of Gucci. And I thought about when I wanted to write this book that eventually I'm going to finish. I wanted to call it because I didn't know I was going to continue to go through the rest of this journey. I was going to call it Wearing Gucci on the Top Bunk because here I am. I have these Gucci shoes and other bags and stuff like that. But here I am in a homeless shelter. And what are you going to do with Gucci in a homeless shelter? Um, I did end up selling a couple of my bags just to get money to help pay for some things while I was there. And yeah, it was very, but as I've been saying, if you've been following along with my videos, you're having two lives within one lifetime. So you're going through all of this to get rid of everything from your past life so that you can move into this new life. Where I am now on the other side, I have nothing. I think I can count on, I don't even know, two hands maybe. I think I counted six items. Oh no, you know what I do have? It's another thing. I have a couple of essential oils that I did bring with me. So probably have 10 items. No, those weren't even from New York, actually. So I think I have six items that I know of that I actually brought from New York 5 years ago with me now to this day. Everything else was lost along the way. And I had to give up or just gone. Like I couldn't hold on to it, you know? Um, and the thing is that those things no longer represented who I was becoming, if that makes sense to you. So he took those things that I asked him to hold on to, and I just brought those two bags back with me. I was so happy because I hadn't been able to take a shower since the day before, so I took a shower. I remember going into, I didn't have any, also, they weren't able to give me my food card. I guess they called it the EBT card, right? I wasn't able to get that until maybe 5 days later. And I think I only had like $25 on me. And I think a couple of the ladies there had given me some food that they had. So I was really thankful for that. The women were, in the beginning, were very helpful for me to get acclimated with the atmosphere there. I remember going into the kitchen and sitting at the table, and a couple of them had come through, and then they saw me later on. And they like, I thought you were one of the counselors. And I'm like, no, I'm here in the shelter. And I'm like, oh my God, like, I can't believe you, like, you don't belong here. Like, they would say to me. And I'm like, well, everybody has their own circumstances as far as, you know, how they end up getting, into a shelter, what happens to become homeless. Could happen to anyone. Like I told you back a while with when I had brought those bags of clothes to um, that first shelter, the director was telling me that people, their house burns down in one night and they have nowhere to go. So the whole family ends up going into the shelter. So they had actually like little apartments for families to go into. So which were really, really nice, when I took my little tour of that facility. But it could happen to anyone at any time, you know. Um, tell you so much more about that experience in my next video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for listening. I also have several courses on the ascension process. That video is below. And also, if you'd like to talk to me about your own process, if you like a reading, there's a link to book time with me below also. Okay, and I'll see you next time.